Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second snap take of the day. We've got a wild OTA that took square aim at Arishem and really kneecapped that card. Took him out with all of the most toxic things you can do in the deck, and even some of the fairer Arishem cards are getting a huge hit. This is an insane OTA that's going to shake up the meta, so we're going to look at the changes, then we're going to look at the cards one by one with a deck for each, and we're going to close with my thoughts on where I think the meta will be after this. So we're going to begin with Loki gets a freaking complete rework as a 3/5 on reveal. We replace your deck instead of your hand with your opponent's starting deck. Yeah, that means you're suddenly, when you play Loki, going to get 12 cards and draw one, and those cards in your deck all get -1 cost. What? So your hand remains the same, so all of the Snowguard and Coulson and incoming Kate Bishop Hawkeye stuff that would work amazingly with Loki will no longer do so. Instead, he's replacing your deck. Things that draw cards, and there's very few cards that draw cards in Marvel Snap, work well with him, but he goes down to a 3/5 as compensation. What a change. Leech gets yet another rework. He's an on reveal, and now he just removes the text of 6 cost cards. So if he ever gets good, Infinite is a really good counter, but this is extraordinarily limited right now. Dr. Octopus also gets a rework. That's 3 reworks in a row. Nothing else is reworked. Everything else just gets number changes, but 3 reworks. Dr. Octopus goes to a 4/8, and now he only pulls the lowest power card from your opponent's hand. Wild, right? Just 1 card for Dr. Octopus, the lowest power. The Widow's Kiss, White Widow's summon, let's call it a summon, now is -3 when not filled instead of -4. Probably a wise change. Blob gets up to 13 power before stopping now, no longer 15. War Machine becomes a 4/7, and Apocalypse becomes a 6/8. I think these are ultimately healthy changes for the game. Are they good overall? Well, let's go one by one, because some of them are good and some of them I think are not quite as relevant. Before we get there, though, please hit that sub, like, and comment. We are doing our best to hit 15,000 subs by the end of the year. You can help us get there by hitting that sub button, and if you're willing to help us out with that algorithm, a like and a comment go a long way. In addition, we're giving away an absolutely crap ton of season passes. Like literally, we give away 5 this week, 5 next week, and then 1 a week for the rest of the season. If you are interested in winning a season pass, all you have to do is leave a comment on the video. Let me know what your favorite and least favorite change is from this OTA. Do me a favor, watch the rest so that we're actually in a conversation about this and you're not just repeating what I said back to me. We can agree, disagree, and have a great talk about it in the comments. All right, we've got an alliance that's open to everyone. If you're interested in that, I explained it all in this morning's video. Again, this is the second video of the day. In this morning's video, or you can also alternatively pause this screen and give it a read. Cool? On to Loki. Loki went from 4/5 on reveal, transform your hand into cards from your opponent's starting deck and give them -1 cost. 2, new, on reveal, replace your deck with your opponent's starting deck, give those cards -1 cost, and draw a card. Okay, there are 2 old school Loki cards that really like this change, and most kind of hate it. Like, we're losing Snowguard, we're losing Agent Coulson, we probably don't give a crap about Cable anymore. Instead, we're back to really liking Collector, because every draw after Collector, it should be like District X, where every single draw is giving Collector more power. And in addition to pumping up Collector's power, this is also, again, really great with Quinjet, because every card you draw is going to be at -2 from your opponent's deck. Now, do I think this is going to be a deck? Immediately, no, but I could easily be wrong. So, things to know. This is a complete rework. You keep your old hand but get a new 12-card deck. The draw card seems really good for you this, but you better have them pre-Loki, i.e. like, so Adam Warlock is still 1 overcosted for this. If Adam Warlock costed 4, I think this would be a really great card with it. Crystal as a 3/3, though, might be decent, because you Loki, then you Crystal, and you're getting a card at -1 and -2 cost. That seems to be really powerful. This is still going to go in Arishem. Arishem fundamentally still gets a smaller deck at all -1 cost +1 energy, which seems great for Arishem. But outside of Arishem, this seems clunky. It's worth trying because cost reduction is powerful, but Darkhawk is still everywhere, and Darkhawk is still going to counter this real hard, right? Because there's going to be 11 cards in your deck after turn 3 if you play Loki on 3. Which is a lot, right? Like, that's a gigantic Darkhawk still. So Darkhawk is now, like, still hard countering this. Darkhawk is no longer quite as good against Arishem proper, though. I think they're eventually going to put it back. I think Loki is too fundamental a card, too important a card. If this doesn't work, I expect Loki to fully, to change some more. But this is the death of classic Loki. From Loki's inception last September, it was one of the best decks in the game. It was #1 on the Infinite Leaderboard last October and November, and then again just like 2 months ago. This past, I want to say, June, it was the #1 deck again. So, like, this is the death of one of the most long-lasting and powerful decks in all of Marvel Snap, as they have completely reworked the card. I'm going to be honest with you. I hate this change. I'm not. I think this takes the card too far away from where it was. I hope I'm wrong. I hope playing with it immediately changes it. And yes, I will test it and report back. Of course, that's what we do on this channel. We test and report on everything in Marvel Snap. But I think that this is too much of a change. And I hate to see Loki, which had found a reasonable balance, taken out for Arishem's sins. Alright, this is where I think the Loki Arishem decks can end up. I cut a lot of the cards that ended up sort of not in it. If you see Loki in the Arishem, you're perfectly fine playing it. Outside of that, we have to replace the 5s. So I think Sandman is really where we want to go for that. You're still drawing cards from outside your deck, so Mockingbird's good, Fury's good, etc. Coulson might want to be Collector. I'm not 100% sure. It might want to be Collector. I haven't really figured it out, but Coulson's just really good with Arishem anyways, and who's played the damn card knows. So I think Loki is just another thing to do with this deck to make your stuff more consistent when the opponent has good stuff. Do you really want to do that? It's going to depend on the matchup, to be completely clear. Maybe this one's Adam Warlock. I don't know. Arishem has changed a lot, but this is very likely the best home for. Next up, we have Leech, who went from a 5/5 on reveal, remove the text from cards with on reveal abilities in your opponent's hand. Leech was broken as a 4 last time they made him a 4, right? So they put him back to a 5 and then released Arishem so he could still be played on 4. And guess what? He was still broken. So now he is a 4/4, remove text from 6 cost cards in your opponent's hand, which kills him the way he's been used. Leech is like my least favorite card, so I'm in no way sad about this. I'm curious if Blink Leech decks can come back. Just getting rid of your opponent's 6, assuming that you know whether to play it or not, right? You know whether you want to play this or not when you can look at your opponent's deck. You know if they're running a Red Hulk. You know if they're running a Dr. Doom or whatever. So all of a sudden, Blink Leech might be back, especially with Sandman. If you can blink Leech, blink, and then hit Sandman, and then you have a Doom, they don't have a Doom, you're in really great shape. This is obviously aimed at Arishem, though, and unless it brings this deck back, this is going to be a change that only affects Arishem. We're going to talk more about Arishem holistically when we're done with the last of the Arishem change cards. So this is where I want to start trying with Leech. Leech is a 4. We're running 3 5s, which might be one too many. It might be perfect. Doom and Red Hulk here, and we're just trying to get an early card out so we can blink it away. Jubilee also helps us get out something powerful as necessary. This seems like it's, this was an amazing deck for a while. Ika made it back in the day. It had Quake in it. I cut Quake to re-add Sandman. I think Sandman's too important right now because, well, Bounce and Move are still everywhere, and so are the Thena decks, and Sandman's great against all of those. So I think that there's something here. I think that this deck is powerful and worth looking into. Dr. Octopus, again, full rework. Instead of 5/10 on reveal, pull 4 cards from your opponent's hand to their side of the location. It is now 4/8 on reveal. Pull the lowest power card from your opponent's hand to their side of this location. Iron Man's in the meta, right? Like, you're going to pull an Iron Man. You're going to pull a negative. This is, I believe, the death of this card. 4/8 is really good stats, but if it even pulls a 2 from the opponent, now it's a 4/6, and there's a million 4/6s I'd rather play. This absolutely kills Dr. Octopus. I don't like this change. I don't like murdering a card. Dr. Octopus was one of my least favorite cards in the game, but I wish they found a more balanced or fair version of it instead of just making it significantly worse Gladiator. Because right now, this is significantly worse Gladiator. It would need to destroy the lowest power card in the opponent's hand for it to not be completely terrible. This obviously hits Arishem, but it also is the entire end of one of the meta's most important decks. The Magic Dr. Octopus Clog decks no longer exist with this change. Dr. Octopus was too important at just messing up a lane and messing up your opponent's plays. Without that, the deck can still exist as a tier 2 deck. Perhaps we go back to a Nihilus Clog, but the Dr. Octopus style of this deck that was using Cannonball, that was using Shang-Chi, that deck is gone. Rip, Husky Puppies. This is where I would try Dr. Octopus. I think he's fine in a mill deck. Mill decks are just sort of trying to get rid of your opponent's hand stuff. We're running a little clog sub-theme with Hood, White Widow, Viper stuff here. Perfectly fine to throw over a Yondu or whatever if it'll clog a location. Dr. Octopus will still help clog a location. In those circumstances, he's just no longer completely insane doing so. And he's immune to Shang-Chi. I think this deck might have legs. My working assumption is this is going to be bad, but if Arishem play rate goes down even further with all of these changes, Mill gets better, and this is a decent place to try Dr. Octopus out. It feels like it lacks a closer though, right? Alright, next up we have the Widow's Kiss. Widow's Kiss was -4, and now it's -3. That is significantly worse for the card, but White Widow is going in every damn deck, and this is definitely a needed change. I expected White Widow to become a 3-cost card. I'm happy they chose this as a starting point instead. Let's see how balanced this makes it. I think the problem with Widow isn't the negative power, it's the extra clog. So I think it's probably safer as a 3-cost card. Playing it multiple times with cards like Beast or Grandmaster is extremely strong. But hey, this is a good change. Without Dr. Octopus, I'm less sure that we actually needed this change, but I'm still happy we did it. This was an easy auto-include that's now a slightly worse auto-include. Pulling it back makes sense. You want to also leave design space for cards like Kate Bishop, and if the whole board is clogged, Kate Bishop is not an amazing card, right? And that's the next season pass card. This is going to go into basically the same decks, except that clog deck doesn't exist, but every other deck that ran this card still runs this card. This is the deck I've been having most success with right now. I've got like 7 variations of this, but this is the deck I've been having most success with right now. It is a Cassandra bounce that King Venom put together, or found. I have no idea if he made this or not, but that King Venom ended up putting together or finding. And I think that White Widow's still great here, right? Like, you're not playing the Widow's Kiss in this deck for the -3. You're playing it because it might have negative power and will have negative power with Hazmat on top of all the other things you can do. Blob. Blob now maxes out at 13 power instead of 15 power, or will look for 13 power. This is obviously a nerf. -2 power is a huge nerf. This is like the final of the like big punch Arishem in the face, which means they hit Loki, completely change the card. Excuse me. They hit Leech, completely change the card. They hit Doc Ock, completely change the card. They hit Blob, wreck the face off of Blob. Blob is now a card that I don't believe in any way, shape, or form is nearly as powerful in Arishem decks. I think Arishem decks probably didn't need this change on top of the other two. Blob being the best top end in Arishem was good, as long as they weren't getting the free toxic wins. I don't think Blob was a problem, but that's where we are. The other good home for Blob was Thanos, but Thanos is dead. This is going to hurt you pretty badly in Arishem decks. The Arishem that exists in July is just going to have to be different. It's still going to run Blob, but like it's no longer nearly as powerful. Loki is going to be in the deck, but be a totally different card, and we're not running Leech or Dr. Octopus anymore, so we're going to have to rethink what we do as 5 drops on 4 with that deck. Again, I'm looking at Vision and Sandman as the cards of choice here, along with Legion staying in, because Legion was often over the other 2 cards. But the free wins are gone, right? Like those extra wins that were just, I almost cheated by Doc Ocking on 4 or Leeching on 4 are gone. And now you have to play a fair game plan into a Cassandra Nova Darkhawk meta, and that's obviously way harder. I'm interested to check this out. This is called Thanuary because it's built off the January Thanos cards. I'm aware Mockingbird came out in March and Cull Obsidian came out in February. But like it's built off the same concept as the January Thanos list. I think this is probably reasonably interesting and reasonably worth checking out. Lockjaw, now working the way he did, is really, really great with the stones. I wish Thanos didn't start in hand. I think this deck would immediately be back. All you need to change for this to be good again is Thanos not starting in hand. But if you do that, maybe it's too good. So time will have to tell. But this is still a very strong list that does a lot of powerful things. It's basically saying I'm running all the powerful cards with my draw. Can this work? Oh, Blob is still in it though, so here we go. War Machine. Now a 4/7, the most disappointing and overhyped card possibly ever in Marvel Snap. Everyone thought this card was going to be completely broken. I thought it was going to be good, and then I was convinced it would be completely broken, and we were all wrong. So this ended up is going to be a 4/7 as they try and make it have a home, but like I don't expect this to matter. It has a style of deck, but that deck is still pretty middling. It was a tech card for cards that aren't in the meta, is like what its best use was. Like Storm's not played a lot, and Professor X isn't the same card. Move cards are better answer for Professor X than this one-turn answer. Hopefully this is going to inspire someone to build something new, find something new with War Machine, and if it does, we'll let you know. But for now, this is where I am for War Machine. This list is reasonably cool. This is JJ Rolks, do you want to build a Sandman? Basically what it's trying to do is give your opponent Electra or, and much harder, but still doable with various locations, give them an Ebony Maw. You can play into that Maw with War Machine, you can play around that Electro with War Machine, you can also drop that Infinite. You can also play Electro and then immediately Lady Deathstrike it away. This is a lot of work for what Arishem does for free, but it is a ridiculously cool deck, so if you want something really, really cool and different to try, give this one a shot. It's got way more plays than you would think. Alright, Apocalypse goes back to a 6/8 from 6/6. Thank God. This change was never needed. We never needed to change Apocalypse. Classic Destroy is always in the meta, but the second discard was in the meta, they nerfed its most important card by a fair amount, which really, really sucked, right as Red Guardian came out and smashed that deck in the face anyway. I think Red Guardian stonks are way, 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 way up, by the way, after this update. I think we're going to push Arishem down, which means we're going to be in a lot of mid-range stuff, and all of a sudden Red Guardian's stocks are way up. But this is really good, largely because I'm stuck playing a lot of discard. I now have a destroy and discard deck just built in my collection because I've got bounties that demand I discard and destroy cards. So now I can take care of those relatively quickly. Making Apocalypse better means I might actually win some of those games. So that's really nice. I know our friends Chase Pitzer, Parry, Manilow, and GamingwithFlashX will all be happy with these changes. And that's awesome. I like when my friends are happy. I like Apocalypse being powerful. I think discard should have a place in the meta as a cheap deck to get into. Now, this is the best discard deck in the meta, the one I have built, the one I've been playing. It is very good, not great, but very good. It is significantly better with Apocalypse as a 6/8 than Apocalypse as a 6/6. That's just it. It gets bigger, faster, and that's what you want to do with this card. You want to get big, fast. This is a strong, powerful, useful list to play. Gwenpool on Swarms is completely insane, just for the record. You're going to win a lot of games that way. It's very fun. Okay, that's the changes. So Arishem is alive, but severely hobbled. Its free wins are mostly gone. So Arishem's going to have to play a relatively fair game of Marvel Snap. Is it going to win its fair share of those? Hell yeah, it's still one of the better decks, but I don't think it's one of the best decks. I think that the Clog Dr. Octopus decks are just dead. I think that a sort of bounce Clog will take its place. But I hope that Annihilus comes back. I thought Annihilus was a really fun card. Move and Bounce have been improving a lot and are fundamentally untouched. Move and Bounce are, the Move deck has been the best deck for a while, and the Bounce deck is number one on the Infinite Leaderboard. I think both of those have gotten better. Their predators of Dr. Octopus and Clog are fundamentally gone, although the Move deck's, part of the Move deck's power came from that Dr. Octopus thing and working around Leech. I think that we just discovered a build, Sizer and Barzy discovered a build, that just puts so much power on the board that it doesn't freaking matter. But if they're that good, then we'll start to see some more combo, maybe some negative, maybe some tribunal, which will change what tech cards they have to run, and then the meta cycles. Shadow King, however, right now is insane. Huge, huge, huge Shadow King stocks. Shadow King love. Move and Bounce are both playing thena scaling stuff. Move and thena decks, like the thena midrange, are all playing thena scaling stuff, and Bounce is obviously full of scalers like Werewolf and maybe Hitmonkey without Clog can be a thing. So we'll see where that lands. This is going to be a very, very, very mid-range heavy meta. I'm going to tell you straight up, I think the card to have right now that's going to shock everyone, your Cube Stealer, is Ajax right now. If you have Ajax, you're going to be really happy right now. It is the biggest thing, and you have a lot of ways that you can get to 7 energy to end the game and just have a 20 power last turn in one lane unexpectedly. Other important cards seem to be Sandman. Sandman seems like it's going to be very good because if there's a mid-range meta, That's a really good way to stop it. But one of the big counters to Sandman is always Patriot. So we'll see if Patriot rises up to counter Sandman. And the deck I expect to really, really take off next week when Marvel Boy comes out is Zoo. I think Zoo is about to be an insanely powerful deck. Zoo is basically getting a 3-cost Khazar, even better 3-cost Khazar, where if you can go Squirrel Girl into this card, into Marvel Boy, you're going to have a 3/12, which is silly, silly, silly power. So you love to see it. This is what we're looking at. This is what the meta is going to be, at least in my perspective. Again, I'm looking for Annihilus to come back. I don't expect it to do so, but everything else here seems like it's just going to be mid-range all day, every day. Some people will counter that. Be ready to start packing your Mobiuses for negative or Enchantresses for Tribunal, because I fully expect them to start to return once people get settled into this new meta, and Shang is just a little bit, not a ton, just a little bit less necessary. Cool. All right, we're almost done here. So certain tiers of support on our channel, on our Patreon, come with on-air thanks. You can, if you're interested, check out patreon.com/snapjudgments. I'd like to say thank you to Abigail Kiesland, Mandatory Burnout, Cables, Matt H, Irregardless, David G, Wingfield, LAB, FaThorNewman, Good Dog Gamer, This Is the Way, Inc, I Am Frostman, Jay Nevery, Corwin, Primed, Ryan, Kertixley, Koire, Pyrofros, The Goat Seeker, Denman Falcon, Quid Pro Joe, Docty, King of New Marvel Snapcard Content, Fat Nick, Ginger Prime, Philip Rakovich, A Ratko, Haplo, Kenny Loggins of the Danger Zone, Rob Silverman, The Notorious Bizza, Exorus V and Skippy G, Tommy Nyquist, winner of Central League Season 1, King of Bros, Black Dahlia, The Great Kazoo, Jessica Gamble, Hey Jess, Ryan Wood, Woody, Kev Sihoda, Luna Chris, Archangel 3K, John Q, 8th Sage, Models, The Mod Supreme, Darth Tater, Remus Atala, Brian Kaufman, Tristan H. Martin, Jason B, J.D. McDonald, Ian Ho, The Fuzzy Dunlap, Spectrum X, Who, Matt H, there's 2, DJ, Mikey Hedgings, No Frickin' Flex, Ocularis, Mr. Craig Sterry, Seamus, I hope you're doing well, shoot me a message, Jonesy, 2 Ties, my current alliance leader, we've got like 8, the great Lauren Whatevs, the Pirate King Tuccrr, the Homieman, and of course, Gunny T, where the T stands for, don't forget, there will be another video tomorrow where we'll have the best, proven immediately, like the best decent size sample decks after the OTA. Peace.